What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about here on a daily basis. We got a lot going on here right now as the Republicans and Congress has elected a new Speaker of the House. We're gonna be seeing here what they get done here. We have also not talked about the first ever Black person elected to a leadership role of either position. That is Hakeem Jeffries here for the Democrats. So, congratulations to him. And also, he is going to be telling us here about the concessions having been made to Kevin McCarthy's position to come into the Speaker of the House. Yeah, so take a listen here. Also, Hakeem Jeffries will be telling us what Congress is going to be working on, Biden's new border policies about illegal immigrants coming in, and Title 42, and much, much more here in this video. So, yeah, you'll want to listen. Take a listen.
House Democrats will always put American values over autocracy, benevolence over bigotry, the Constitution over the cult, democracy over demagogues, economic opportunity over extremism, freedom over fascism, governing over gaslighting, hopefulness over hatred.
Welcome back. In case you missed it, that was the ABCs of what House Democrats plan to fight for. On a week consumed by infighting on the Republican side, Democrats made history, formally elevating Congressman Hakeem Jeffries as their leader, first Black lawmaker to lead either party in Congress. At 52, ready for this? He is also the first lawmaker elected to lead House Democrats that was born after the end of World War II. And Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries joins me now. Leader Jeffries, welcome back to Meet the Press, and first of all, congratulations.
Thank you, Chuck. Good morning. Happy New Year.
Thank you, sir. Let me start with your take on the concessions Kevin McCarthy made in order to gain the speakership. What are the ones that concern you the most about the functionality of the House?
Well, our general concern is that the dysfunction that was historic that we saw this week is not at an end, it's just the beginning. And while the Congress was held captive this particular time, what is going to be a problem is if the American people will be held captive over the next 2 years to the extreme MAGA Republican agenda that apparently has been negotiated into the House rules and the functioning of the Congress. That's going to undermine the health, the safety, and the well-being of the American people. It may undermine national security and a robust defense, and undermine our ability to actually advance an agenda that is anchored in kitchen table pocketbook issues and not extremism.
You know, one of the things that I've noticed in Washington, no matter when an institution gets weakened, even when the party changes hands, it's sometimes hard to re-strengthen that institution. Are you concerned that should you have the good fortune of having the ability to be speaker, that it's actually going to be hard to restore some of these powers?
No, what our concern right now is on getting things done for everyday Americans and tackling the business that is in front of us, making sure that we have a farm bill that makes sense for the American people, making sure that we actually can fund a government that invests in economic opportunity, invests in the health and the public safety of the American people, making sure that we don't default on our debt for the first time in American history, making sure that we reauthorize important agencies like the FAA so we can strengthen air travel in this country. This is the agenda that we're going to focus on as Democrats: lower cost, better paying jobs, American jobs that can be brought back to this country. And I'm very, very troubled by the way in which the Congress has started, and hopefully that doesn't portend what's to come.
Are we going to be governing by discharge petition? And I apologize to the viewers. What does that mean? It just says we're basically a handful of Republicans working with Democrats would work outside the leadership, forcing maybe a clean debt limit raise, keeping the lights on for government. Is that the reality of the next 2 years?
Well, what we've indicated from the beginning is that we are going to extend the hand of partnership to the other side of the aisle, make sure that we can find common ground whenever and wherever possible. We will oppose extremism, of course, whenever necessary. And there are Republicans who are interested in governing. And they're going to have to break from the extreme wings of their party at times around some important issues. And we'll see how that all unfolds.
Speaker Pelosi did not have a great relationship with Kevin McCarthy. What's yours?
Well, Kevin McCarthy and I have had some positive, forward-looking conversations over the last few weeks. And I'm hopeful that we'll be able to build upon those conversations to do the right thing for the American people. Clearly, we are going to have strong disagreements at times, but we can agree to disagree without being disagreeable. That is what I believe the American people would like to see in terms of a functional House, a functional Senate, a functional government. I look forward to building upon the Biden agenda, tremendous accomplishments from the American Rescue Plan to the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, to gun safety legislation for the first time in 30 years, the CHIPS and Science Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, and moving the country forward. And if Kevin McCarthy is willing to try to find common ground in that regard, they will find willing partners amongst House Democrats.
You know, a 5-seat House majority is the equivalent of arguably a 1-seat or the 50-50 Senate. I mean, it is that narrow. If you thought you could find 5 Republicans to support you or the Democrats and it actually changed the majority, would you pursue looking for 5 party switchers?
We are going to pursue an agenda that protects the public interest, that ensures economic opportunity in every corner of America, that builds upon the moment that we're in. We have an inflationary environment, of course, that we continue to fight. And let me point out, Chuck, Republicans spent months saying that they were going to fight inflation. They came to Washington and spent their first week fighting each other. What we need to do is fight for everyday Americans. That is what we are going to try to do as we move forward as House Democrats. And we look forward to trying to find some reasonable Republicans who are willing to break from the extreme elements of their conference to do the business of the American people.
But you're not necessarily looking for any of them to switch parties and put you in the Speaker's office.
We're dealing right now with a Republican majority that is narrow, a House that is evenly divided, and that is going to require bipartisan cooperation. It doesn't mean unconditional surrender. Democrats are always going to stand behind our principles, but we are willing to find common ground, to fight for the things that the American people care about: lower cost, better paying jobs, safer communities, being right at the top of the list.
I want to ask you about a couple of issues. President Biden is headed to the border today. Is going to have some meetings with the presidents of Canada and Mexico. But I'm curious what you think of his new border policies, expanding Title 42 to asylum seekers from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, the third country asylum rule. There'll be a new pathway for some migrants, but Title 42 will still be there and the transit ban will still be there. How do you feel about these decisions?
Well, I look forward to hearing what President Biden has to say later after his communications. I do think that the Biden administration is trying to tackle a tough issue in a way that is consistent with both the principle that America is a nation of immigrants, that gorgeous mosaic of people from across the world who come here to pursue the American dream has been a part of American excellence, but also, of course, making sure there's a safe and a secure and a strong border. Now, with respect to Title 42, it's my understanding that the Biden administration is bound by some court decisions and are working through that. We'll see what the judicial process leads to. But at least as it relates to the Democratic side of the aisle, we look forward to having a positive, forward-looking, positive discussion. We're not going to try to weaponize the issue for political gain, as some of my colleagues on the Republican side of the aisle clearly would like to do.
Before I let you go, you're the first African-American to lead a party in Congress. What does that mean to you? What does that mean to the country?
Well, I look forward to doing the best possible job, to staying focused, to getting things done. But I do think that it is another data point on the journey in America, which is we are a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And that means that folks from a working class neighborhood in central Brooklyn like myself should have an opportunity to participate in American governance, particularly in the House of Representatives, which is the institution designed to be the closest to the people. And we're proud of the fact, as House Democrats, that we are one of the most diverse caucuses in American history, truly reflecting the hopes, the dreams, and the aspirations, and as the framers would say, the passions of the American people in the most authentic way possible. And I'm proud to be a part of that team.
You just helped preview a data download I will have later in the show that shows how Congress, how reflective is this Congress of the American population. Hakeem Jeffries, the new leader of the Democratic Party in the House. Again, congratulations, and I appreciate you coming on, sharing your views.
Yeah, so let me know your thoughts here on this. Congress can finally get to work here now that they have a Speaker of the House, and now they can get down to business here. What do you think is going to happen here? So, yeah, it's already been an interesting beginning of 2023. Uh, I have a feeling that 2023 is going to be just as crazy as 2022, which was just as crazy as 2021, which was just as crazy as 2020. We'll see. We'll see. But it's already kind of started off that way. Speaking of that, U.S. House Speaker of the House now, Kevin McCarthy, pledges to tackle immigration and woke education policies and IRS funding. The IRS funding here is a double-edged sword because, we have had, I don't know the exact count now, millions of people still waiting on tax returns from last year and even some from the year before. So again, double-edged sword there, because if you cut the funding and the people that they were starting to hire, that you run into issues like that where you're waiting on your tax return, money that the IRS owes you. That can take even longer here. And the other issue is that when you go to call the IRS, just if you have a question, they owe you money, you want to know something about a stimulus check, a tax refund check, whether you owe the IRS money, where your tax question, tax return, anything like that. Good luck getting through. It's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. I've seen countless amount of people say, yeah, I tried to call the IRS, Jimmy, and I literally can't get through, or I had to wait on hold for hours. Or I've seen people say, I called and I waited on hold for X amount of time or an hour, and then the automated system said, sorry, we're too busy. Please call later, and hung up on them. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. And this is because they just don't have enough people. I've also seen people say the exact same thing about the Social Security system or the Social Security Administration sometimes as well, that they can't get through. It's too busy. Same thing with going to the local offices, Social Security Administration as well. They're understaffed. They don't have enough people there. Exact same type of thing. They don't have enough funding. So you guys can let me know your thoughts on this. So again, I get the whole people don't want to be audited thing. And I get the double-edged sword there. But if you don't actually get audited, all the other things for the IRS is actually a good thing. You need to be able to talk to somebody. You need to be able to get your tax refund. So maybe we hire people in the other categories of the IRS, customer service, people that actually do the tax refund. I get that. I'm trying to be optimistic here, but yeah. So you guys can let me know your thoughts here. It's a give and take situation here. But the problem with this is that the audit department is the one of the departments that brings in money to pay for the salaries. So where it's just like customer service and tax refund departments and stuff are just, if you just hire people in those departments, it's just an outflow. I don't know how much these people make. 50. Remember the average salary nowadays is in the $50,000 range, just across the board based on U.S. Census data. So, and I don't know if these, IRS agents, you would think maybe make more. Remember, these are, government jobs that have probably have pensions and also require X degree or 2 degrees, who knows, higher up degrees, right? I mean, so maybe they pay $75,000 a year or whatnot, right? So these are probably expensive jobs that, the other market data stuff you got to remember is that if these IRS jobs don't pay enough, people with these qualifications will just go work somewhere else. So that's the thing you got to remember is that these jobs have to be competitive because the people with those qualifications, if the IRS is not competitive, those people will just go work someplace else. They'll go work at law firms or private, jobs that are hiring in similar qualifications. Because if those jobs are paying $5,000, $10,000 more or whatever, they're just not going to work at the IRS. So you guys can let me know your thoughts on this, but I have seen so many people in the comment section saying, Jimmy, I waited for my tax return for 6 months or more, a year or more. I tried to call the IRS. I've tried to call the Social Security Administration, and I can't get through. It's an absolute nightmare. And I get it. On the other hand, nobody wants to be audited. I get it. So you guys can let me know your thoughts here on this, but this is one of the things that Republicans have historically wanted to do. Former President Donald Trump, their administration cut the IRS administration significantly, cut their funding on it, and it's stayed that way. The one of the past bills by Biden, I think it was the Inflation Reduction Act. I don't know what one of the last bills they just passed here added more funding for the IRS agents, but now Kevin McCarthy and Republicans coming in because they say they have control of the purse in the House want to cut it back down. So the ever battle between Republicans and Democrats ever ongoing here. So you guys can let me know your thoughts here in the comments, and I'll keep you up to date here with everything going on here in our country on a daily basis. So if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe down below to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out on everything going on here in our country on a daily basis. I will keep you up to date here. After subscribing, click the bell icon so you don't miss out on new videos that come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And also, thanks so much for liking and sharing these videos. Here's some videos you can watch next. Here is a new video about $900 stimulus checks going out. And here is a new Social Security warning that if you haven't seen yet, you need to watch that video. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next video.